In this lesson, we're going to give an overview on how to create a presentation file. A presentation file is an exploded view of an assembly. To start a presentation file, there's a couple different ways of doing that. From the new drop-down list, go ahead and click on Presentation, or from the new icon, or Control-N, or from the File pull-down, click on New. And then once we do that, from our different tabs, you'll notice that there's a file called standard.ipn. So IPN is the file extension of a presentation file. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and click on the standard, click OK. And you'll notice that we go into a brand new window. We also have a browser and our panel bar. From the panel bar, you see that we have only a few tools that we're going to be working with. So of course, in this case, there's only one tool that's available. So we're going to go ahead and click on Create View. Now from our drop-down list, if I had an assembly file open, it would appear in the list. So in this case, one is not. So I'm going to click on the Explore Directories icon. And in this case, I'm going to create it off the arborpress.iam. So again, a presentation file is only based off of one assembly file. Go ahead and click on Open. Now under the options, this is where you can go back and designate if there is a design view or if there's a positional rep or a level of detail that you would like to use. In this case, I'm going to cancel because I don't have any of those in this specific file. For the explosion method, so manual and automatic, if you click automatic, you can have the constraints that are applied to the assembly be analyzed in the presentation file, and Inventor will try to automatically explode those. Just be aware, the more assembly constraints that you have, the harder it's going to be for Inventor to explode them in the correct manner. So in this case, I'm going to go with the manual option, and I'll show you how we can disassemble this assembly one tweak at a time. So in this case, just going to go ahead and click OK. And you'll see that it looks and feels just like we were inside of an assembly. But in this case, from our panel, we now have the three other tools. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to click on the Tweak Components. And what Tweak is going to allow us to do is move or translate some of these components away from the assembly or to rotate them. So I'm going to zoom in tight. I'm only going to work on a couple parts inside of this assembly here. So in this case, the direction, what I'm going to do is just move my cursor around. As you can see, the XYZ is flipping depending upon the face that I'm on. And I'm going to just slide on over and I'm going to select the circular edge, that top bolt. Now it's looking for the component or components that I want to translate out. In this case, I'm just going to select that bolt. If I expand the browser and expand the assembly, you'll see that it's also highlighting the part inside of the browser. So you could also select multiple components there if you are having a hard time selecting them. For the trail origin, if we're going to turn our display for the trails on or off, you can go back and designate the start or the end point for those trails. So what we can do next is I want to go back and I want to move that bolt out. I have a couple different ways of doing that. I can go back and designate the X, Y, and Z through the dialog box and type in a value, or I can just grab one of the arrows, in this case the Z, and I'm going to drag that out, and I'm going to then type in a value. Let's type in 1.75, and then I'm going to click the Apply button, which is very important because in this case that is now inside of the browser as a specific tweak. Now I can go back and continue to move this around, and basically what you're again trying to show, if someone were to go back and assemble this, how would they actually do that? I'm just going to click on Apply. And now at this point I'm going to clear and I'm going to start all over. So in this case what I want to do is show how we can take multiple components out. So again, for the direction, I'm just going to move my cursor right over this front plane. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the 3 bolts and the 2 set screws, and let's move these components out. As you see that I missed one, and that's okay. For now, I'm just going to go back and apply that. Let's change the value first to 3, and let's clear that. And let's take and do the exact same thing for the last set screw. And again, I'll just put that to a value of 3, and I'll show you later how we can correct that issue that we have. So let's do one more. I'm just going to go ahead and clear that, start over, and let's work with the RAM. So go ahead and select that, grab that RAM, and let's pull that RAM up. In this case, I'm going to designate that I want that to go up 5 units. And for now, let's go ahead and clear that. So those are all the tweaks that I'd want to do. At this point, obviously, you would continue doing all of your tweaks. But what I wanted to show, if you expand these in the browser, you'll see that we can go back and you can edit their values just by double-clicking on them and typing in a new value. But once we have all those set, what we can do is I can go back and animate this. So when I click on the animate, you'll notice that the dialog box pops up, looks kind of like your VCR. So let's just play it forward. And if I zoom in tight here, you can see exactly what it's doing. And everything looks pretty good. If I expand the dialog box and I replay that, you can see which tweak is being applied when and where. So I'm going to just do a reset and I'm going to close that. So what I need to do is I'm going to go back and do one more tweak. So again, for the component, for the angle, and let's do 3600, and let's change that again to negative and click on the apply and clear, and let's verify in this case for sure that it is in there, and it's right there at 3600. So now let's go back and again click on the animate, expand the dialog box. So now as I go back and apply this, you'll see that the bolt is spinning out, the ram's going in, and then the bolts are going in. So what I'd really like to have happen, the angle or the rotation and the last tweak that I did, those should really be happening at the exact same time. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the reset, and I'm going to move the angle down, and I'm going to move it right so it's right next to that last tweak. And then I'm going to hold down the control key, selecting both of those, and I'm going to group them together. And then I'm going to apply that, and let's go ahead and replay that now. I'm going to get in really tight so we can see it. So you see as it can move itself over, and now it's going to rotate, as well as it's doing itself on the way in. So one last thing that I wanted to show. So while it's going through its range of motion, we can go back and you can have different points of view. And I'm going to do that by clicking on the browser filter, and I'm going to switch to the sequence view option. And if I expand the tasks, so with task 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is I have set up here, I'm just going to click on sequence 2. And at this point you can go back and type in a different description if you needed to. In this case I'm just going to set the camera there and apply that. And then I'm going to switch back down to sequence 3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select on the rotate tool. And let's bring up the glass box. We'll rotate our view. Exit out of that, set the camera, apply, and click OK. So now as I go back and do my animation, the view will change when it hits that sequence. The last thing that you can do while you're creating these presentation files is that you can write this out to an AVI or a Windows media file by clicking on the record button, and we can also use these exploded views to create drawing views, which we will do in a later lesson.